Hi guys, let's talk about the real reasons pros don't use VR. This topic always amuses me and frustrates me in equal measure. You'll hear people who barely touch VR or have never used it at all, confidently explaining why pros don't use VR. And sure, sometimes they stumble onto a valid point, but most of the time they're missing the real underlying reasons entirely. So today we're diving deep. Not surface level stuff, not the usual VR bad because motion sickness nonsense. We're going into the actual practical, technical and physical reasons VR still isn't the default choice for top level sim racers. Let's get into it. In real motorsport, vision is everything. You're constantly scanning far ahead for braking boards, mid-distance for traffic, near distance for grip cues, and peripheral space for danger. Your eyes are doing a ton of work. But in VR, until very recently, looking into the distance meant staring into a blurry, pixelated fog. Even on high-end headsets, the combination of limited pixels per degree, aliasing, shimmering edges, and the dreaded screen door effect meant that anything beyond the immediate mid-range was mush. And if you lowered settings for performance, it got even worse. Headsets like the Pimax Crystal Light and Super have pushed clarity forward massively, but we're still nowhere near the 60 to 90 ppd needed for true long-range sharpness. And even if we had that headset today, no GPU on the market can drive it at competitive frame rates without massive compromises. So VR racers naturally end up focusing more on the immediate road ahead, while flat screen racers can see braking boards, distant apex markers, traffic clusters, and danger much earlier. That's a real competitive disadvantage. We do get one advantage though. Looking into the corner feels completely natural because your head and eyes move exactly as they would in a real car. That's something flat screens simply cannot replicate. Field of view issues aren't exclusive to VR. Single screen racers struggle too. But they have something we don't. Fixed reference points, stable camera position, and overlays that don't move with their head. VR gives you immersion, but it also gives you tunnel vision. Imagine looking through a letterbox, great forward visibility, terrible close-range peripheral awareness. That's VR. Some sims include built-in radar, which helps massively, but if your sim doesn't, your options are third-party overlays, crew chief, open kneeboard, or nothing. And if you're using OpenXR, overlay support is still extremely limited, so VR racers are more vulnerable to side-to-side contact unless they run extra tools. And those tools can introduce latency, performance drops, and visual clutter. Not to mention the extra setup complexity. I've personally resorted to running overlays through Open Kneeboard, and it works, but it's not elegant, and it's not free performance-wise. VR endurance racing is absolutely possible. I've done multiple 24-hour races myself, but it's messy, uncomfortable, and requires more effort than flat screen racing. After an hour or two, you're dealing with heat buildup, fogging, eye fatigue, sweat, dehydration, and the inability to casually sip a drink. You're also completely closed off from the outside world. Want a drink? Good luck threading a bottle under a headset. Want a snack between stints? You're lifting the headset, breaking immersion, and risking fogging. Pit management in ACC becomes a nightmare because you can't see your desktop controls. Spotting becomes harder unless you keep the headset awake off your face, and you're working harder than your flat screen teammates just to stay functional. Could you rig up a real driver hydration tube? Sure. Do you want to? Probably not. VR headsets are getting lighter, but many still feel like strapping a brick to your face. Front-heavy designs cause cheek pressure, forehead pressure, nose bridge pain, and neck fatigue. You can fix this with counterweights, comfort straps, better facial interfaces, but that adds cost and even more weight. For endurance stints, that's a deal breaker for many drivers. Flat screens don't fight your face. Hot weather and VR are a terrible combination. Sweat leads to fogging, overheating, bacterial growth, eye irritation, and general misery. A wind sim helps, but it also dries your eyes out, which creates a different problem. Air conditioning helps too, but not everyone has it. My personal setup is antibacterial wipes, wind sim, and regular brakes. But even then, summer VR racing is a balancing act between comfort, hygiene, temperature, and eye health. Flat screen racers don't have to think about any of this. VR motion sickness has improved massively, but it hasn't disappeared. Even with high frame rates, wind sims, motion rigs, base shakers, stable frame times, some people will still feel sick. And the worst part, you don't know if you're one of those people until you try it. Just like real cars, some people simply get motion sick. VR will never be for everyone. VR is immersive because it shuts out the outside world, but that also means you can't see your room, you can't see your pets or kids, you can't see your stream chat without third-party add-ons, and your face cam becomes pointless. You can add chat overlays, but it's never as natural as glancing at a monitor. And if you have children or animals, VR can be a genuine safety concern. Flat screen racers stay connected to their environment. VR racers disappear into a bubble. This is the part most people completely ignore. To run VR properly, not just it launches, but high resolution, high clarity, wide FOV, stable frame times, 90 to 120 FPS, motion smoothing off, you need an absolute monster PC. Even the best GPU today cannot drive the highest end headsets at full resolution without compromises. If you want 120 frames per second, full resolution, wide FOV, high clarity, no reprojection, you're dreaming. Flat screen racers can max everything out and still get 200 plus frames per second. VR racers are constantly juggling. It's a never-ending compromise, and the higher the headset resolution gets, the worse the GPU bottleneck becomes. After all that negativity, let's be fair, VR has some huge strengths. For the average racer, consistency often improves, judging speed becomes easier, braking points feel more natural, spatial awareness inside the cockpit is unmatched, and immersion is on another level entirely. Your first VR lap is unforgettable. It feels like you're in the car, not watching it. It won't make you superhuman, but it absolutely enhances the driving experience. There are far more positives to VR than I've listed here, but today we're focusing on why many pros still choose flat screens. I've been a VR racer for 4 years and I love it. Would I switch to triples? Never say never. But the immersion keeps pulling me back. VR is full of compromises: clarity, performance, comfort, heat, hardware demands, but many of these issues are improving, and future headsets and GPUs will close the gap even further. For now though, flat screens still offer the cleanest, simplest, most competitive experience, and that's why many pros stick with them. If you enjoyed this deep dive on why pros probably stay away from VR, then hit the like button, subscribe to see more of this kind of thing, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye for now.